Broadcasting alive from the Green Room Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. It's the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates, celebrating 25 years of home and garden wisdom. Without further ado, your hosts, Josh Cary and David Bates.
Hey, and welcome in, everybody. It's Saturday morning. You know what that means. It's time for the At Home program. Coming to you alive from a foggy Bates Nursery and Garden Center and the Green Room Studios here.
That it is indeed. It is a quite a foggy morning, but you know
that's outside
for this last day of September.
Wow!
This harvest moon, and what a glorious harvest moon it was.
Beautiful this morning, folks.
It was. I don't know if it was more glorious last evening or early this morning, but both times
morning,
really, really nice.
Yeah.
Let's get into the weather here.
Okay.
And a strange fact that we'll get into in a second. And we've actually received 1/100th of an inch of measurable precipitation due to fog. Condensation due to it. Today's Saturday, the 30th of September, and we're going to see partly cloudy conditions, 86 degrees, perhaps a bit warmer tomorrow, 87, and sunshine, and we're going to have a lot of that in the coming days. We actually, it looks like we're going to have dry conditions resume after a really quite rainy day before yesterday, at least for those of us on the north side of town. Some areas got, I think, as much as 4 inches of rain, 1.6 here at the nursery. But as we get into the middle part of the week, the latter part, 81 degrees, we have a cooling trend with a few extra clouds, even into the 70s by next weekend, maybe 67.
Hush.
So that's all good, and hopefully pavement is on the way for the new parking facilities here at Bates Nursery Garden Center. You can see on the screen here 1.72 this week, of which 1/100th came today. I don't know if that's visible really well or not, but and 61.7 degrees, or about 62 here, live from the Green Room at Bates Nursery.
And the fog is out there, folks, so be careful. Turn your headlights on if you're traveling around.
Yeah. Even if you're not traveling around, turn your headlights on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, test your battery.
Yeah.
So, welcome in all. We want to make sure you know that, hey, we've got our cast of standard players today.
They're not standard.
Well, yes, they're
very special.
These are the people that you are accustomed to seeing, but we do have a complimentary cast who fill in from time to time. And
they didn't compliment me.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, we're glad to have everyone in today.
Don't give me that face, Caroline.
We don't want to poke the bear, Josh.
Okay.
Caroline, Gant, Austin Lowen, across the way. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Tyler Blankenship right here. I've challenged him because I got him on the wrong screen. I was going to do that.
So quick.
Where's the Tyler cam?
He doesn't. They didn't actually have a Tyler cam.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding.
Oh, I like that Tyler cam.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're all here to talk about gardening, whether it's indoors or outdoors.
Yep.
We've got answers to your questions.
And questions
and
for your
we've
answers.
got opinions about
Everything.
horticultural aspects of life and perhaps other things. You
Yes.
just never know. You know, we can go all over the map. Whether we
Off
should
on a
or
tangent.
should not
Squirrel
remains to be seen. So anyway, welcome in all, and welcome in Caroline and Austin. How goes it today?
Great.
It's great.
Austin,
I'm glad
how
to be
are
back.
Okay, we're great so far.
Give us a big thumbs up, Austin.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yes. My hand has a cast on it.
It does.
Not really for a reason. I got my hand hurt the other day, but it got hurt at work. So I had to go get it x-rayed, make sure nothing was broke. I kind of thought it was kind of broke. I pulled a David Bates and got my hand stuck in the gate. We have big, like 20-foot gates here that are massive, full of metal. And my hand kind of got smashed in one. But hey, no broken bones, just a nasty bruise.
You know, the one I got my finger caught in, that's a 60-foot gate that's on the back. It's really heavy. I don't recommend that.
No.
It can leave
I don't
you
either.
permanently disfigured, as it has me.
Yeah, I didn't do it near as bad, but it was painful.
Yes.
Painful.
Pain is a part of life. Pain is inevitable, but it's not, desired.
No, it's not.
So
Glad
I
you
bet
both
we
still
have
have your
questions out there in the gardening world.
We have one in particular from Greg right off the bat. Here.
Right
Greg
off the rip.
Villaflor.
Greg
What's up, Greg?
Villaflor, yeah. Down in the
Okay.
SIP. Down there. He and his neighbor have zoysia lawns. Can you share on today's at-home show what is the proper schedule for fertilizer and weed control for the year, and if there are any tips on how to reduce Bermuda and promote zoysia for my neighbor who has a mix?
Well, and unfortunately, Greg, as your neighbor goes, so go ye as
Yes.
well. And eliminating Bermuda grass out of zoysia is
Tough.
it's very tough. And there is one type of a pre-emergent herbicide. I'm trying to bring that name to mind here. That is very toxic to Bermuda grass, but it is not to zoysia. And you can spray it, and it will weaken Bermuda grass quite a lot. And I'm gonna have to. I was not prepared with that question, so I don't have that chemical name in my mind. But I think it's 2%. There we go.
Yeah, but then down in Corinth, Greg, go find a place, and our friends over at Bates. Not Bates, but at Dickens. Find a place similar to them that services the golf courses around your area, and because 2% is not a controlled use pest.
No, it's not. It's not.
You can buy it.
But I have seen that to be quite effective. But you may or may not want to do that. The other thing that is the other alternative is to simply spray those areas with Roundup, which means you're going to perpetually have dead streaks in your zoysia, or your neighbor will.
Yep.
And you should tell him that that's what he needs to do, because that's the only chance you have of keeping it out of your yard. It's very invasive. And because Bermuda grows so much more quickly than does zoysia, you're going to be fighting it from now on. I don't know what this balance back and forth thing's going on in the headphones.
That's for me. Sorry about that.
But in addition to that, if your neighbor has shade, try to rate, because zoysia and
Well, if you've got
Bermuda
zoysia out
both,
there, you don't have shade, because if you've got shade, you don't
We've
have.
seen pictures of Greg's lawn, so I mean, you see it, but it's very, 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 very non-shade tolerant. So
No, it's not.
And the Bermuda will take some, but not nearly as bad.
Well,
so.
they neither one are known for their shadeability. Now, as far as the fertilizer and weed control goes, you're at the end of the season on both of these. There's no benefit from my standpoint in fertilizing a warm season grass at the time just prior to dormancy. Now, you're a bit south of us, so you're still getting good growth and all. However, within the next month, you're going to see that change. So I don't recommend doing any sort of fertilizing. Now, what you can do, and one of the things that for all other weeds outside of the Bermuda grass, is that once it goes completely dormant, you have a lot more control over the winter weeds, and you can spray those with pretty much relative impunity with respect to how it might affect your zoysia. So,
and they're a lot easier to see in January.
Yeah, they're very easy to differentiate because you're spraying over the top, and you may have to use a higher rate. You'll have to study your manual depending on what it is you're spraying with.
Right.
If you're dealing with grassy weeds, those are best dealt with a pre-emergent. So that means you've got to get it on before any signs of new growth begin to occur. So the main thing is be very much mindful of the growing season. Zoysia, while it is warm season grass, does not exhibit the heavy feeder aspects like Bermuda does. And that should get you through the season. You will not need, and I don't know whether you have irrigation or not on your zoysia lawn. If you do not, you're going to need to kind of time that based on the relative amount of precipitation that is coming down. You don't want to apply it when we're in the middle of a really dry spell. So, Austin, anything you want to add to that, or did I cover it well enough?
I think you nailed that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
I learned a lot.
Well, zoysia is some of the most beautiful grass.
Oh,
Primo.
It's awesome.
It's
So,
awesome, but it's extremely frustrating when you
Yep.
see Bermuda grass encroach into it. Extremely. So I would try that 2% route. The problem with 2% is that you've got to buy about like a 4-pound bag of it, and,
Yep.
and it's a wettable powder. And that's enough to treat like an acre. So I've got a bag that I bought a decade ago, and I still have
3/4 of it.
way more than 3/4.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I use it for spot spraying only. That's the
Yep.
downside. It's not packaged. It's not intended to be used in small amounts. But that's the way you can go. Maybe you can make a drive to Nashville. I'll give you some, Greg.
Yep. Very good.
Seriously.
All right, so we've got a crepe myrtle question, and I
Okay.
believe we did touch on this maybe the week before, but I want to get to it for our viewer. A few of my black crepe myrtles are white on the branches and leaves, and I noticed that it looks to be a white scale insect. I do not believe the problem is powdery mildew. What should I treat the condition with if it is scale?
Good question. And there's been a lot of scale on crepe myrtle this year, like a lot. Like last week, I saw like 3 different customers come in with branches with scale on it. Don't know why that is. It's just been a good year for them for some odd reason.
Well, let me jump in here quickly, Austin. There is a scale that got out of Louisiana some years ago, and Memphis, it's really important for people to try to take aggressive action on it because if it spreads, it will take crepe myrtle out of the landscape.
Wow.
Yeah, the crepe myrtle bark scale.
Yes, and I'm suspicious that that's what it is, and so it's a big deal with respect to crepe myrtle. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
to
no, you're
interrupt.
fine. That's real. I mean, it's here, I believe, and it doesn't look hardly any different than a regular cushion scale. But they're somewhat hard to treat. Scale in general, Caroline can tell you, scale in her world is not fun either on houseplants. Like it's a nasty little pest that is non-specific to any one plant. Really, I mean they'll get on almost anything. Now, getting rid of them is kind of a hard thing. So you need to get them, sprayed with some sort of chemical that's going to take care of the scale whenever they're in a juvenile stage. It's a multi-spray operation. Okay, it's not just like one spray does it all. Okay, the adults have this cushion around their bodies that prevent a lot of chemicals from getting to them, so it's hard to treat that way. I really like a physical removal first, if we can do that, especially if you have a manageable sized crepe myrtle. Now, the problem we run into is some crepe myrtles can get 20, 25 foot tall, and when they're that big, they're really hard to treat if they're really all over with just your hands. But if you have typically the black crepe myrtles that you're talking about are not like a crazy big plant, so if you can get in there and physically remove as much as you can, that's your start. And that's just using your hands, using a really hard stream of water to blast them out of there is the way to go. And then after that, you can treat. And then also using a dormant oil over the wintertime when they're just stems to coat all those stems really, really well with an oil that will effectively suffocate the eggs that are overwintering.
Yeah,
So-
and we really try to avoid using chemicals on things wherever possible, but this is one of those cases where, and I do not know if chlorothalonil or what systemic type of insecticide might be effective on those, but that's something that you should not rule out because they are very difficult to get rid of.
Not fun. They do make these little wand attachments that you can put on the end of your hose. I use it with my cacti that gets scale, and it would probably work for scale on trees. So it makes it it gives it pressure, but it doesn't give it enough to blast your plant in half and destroy it.
Yeah, the problem with blasting them off outdoors is that it does not kill them.
It just
No.
blows them over into the
I'll
neighbor's
usually
yard,
try
yeah.
to treat them first, kill them, and then remove them with the water pressure. But let's stay on pests on trees, shall
Okay.
we? We have somebody that has ants on their apple tree, and it's also dropping leaves.
Better than ants in your pants,
That's
right?
right. So much better than
And
ants in your
fear
pants.
of the uncles even more.
And they've had this
Yeah.
tree for 2 years. So planted
All right.
2 years.
Well, we've talked about this before, and if you have ants on a tree, then you typically have aphids on a tree. Okay, they use the aphids for food, and they will kind of protect the ants on the tree, or the ants will protect the aphids on the tree. Excuse me. So you probably have aphids. You may not know it. Aphids don't really cause all that much damage to a plant, okay, until numbers start to get just like way, way high. So aphids are some of the easiest bugs to kill with natural insecticides. So you can start there by doing that. Now, apples are getting ready to start going dormant, as most of our trees are. So if you get in there and you really look and you see that the aphids are not all that bad, or you can kind of let it go for the rest of the season and let the leaves drop. You can clean up those leaves at the end of the season and get rid of them, and make sure that we spray your apple trees with dormant oil once again. All your fruit growers out there, every orchard you see is going to be spraying dormant oil on their trees over the wintertime. Okay, this is just another protection, for the plant for overwintering insects. So let's go ahead and do that as well. For this season, like I said, though, they're getting ready to start going dormant, so it's not all that bad. But almost any chemical insecticide or even natural insecticide will kill the aphids if you want to go that route. Neem oil will do it, yeah. A lot of things kill aphids. They're pretty easy to they
soapy water.
They're my favorite pest out of all of them.
Yes,
soapy water.
They probably do the least amount of damage, honestly. Even with high numbers, they can do minimal damage. But they more or less actually aesthetically make your plant look displeasing because they secrete honeydew, which is their poop. And then, I said it. And then a black little fungus will get on that, and then your leaves look kind of black, and that's unsightly to see.
Yep. That's
pretty much the biggest damage that aphids really do.
And
on
the driveway, and the patio, and the grill, and the furniture outside.
So it can be annoying. But they're pretty easy to get rid of.
Yeah.
Austin, would
them off with water.
they go for anything else that's like nectary on the tree? Like if it's a fruit tree, would they go for where it produces the fruit?
Aphids, not so much. No, they're very much so a leaf.
I meant the ants.
Oh, the ants.
Would there be any other ways they would be feeding if they weren't being symbiotic with?
I've seen like ants on say peach trees or something that are secreting
their
sugary substance. Yes, they're ants are pretty good at living.
They're opportunistic.
They
too.
are.
Yeah.
So they'll come up and suck on the juice of a peach. I would.
All
Good to
right.
know, Austin.
Okay.
Stay away from my plum.
All right. Speaking of fruit trees, let's stay on that topic. Do you have to fertilize apple trees and blueberry bushes to get them to fruit?
No, not necessarily to get them to fruit, but to keep vigor and health. Yes, it's very helpful to fertilize in the spring. I mean, most every grower is going to be fertilizing their plants in the early spring when they're actively growing, and this produces a happier, healthier plant, which will produce healthy fruit. As long as everything goes right within the season, But blueberries are pretty consistent producers here in Middle Tennessee anyway. It's not like a peach to where one little late frost can wreck your crop for the year. For the most part, blueberries are going to come in strong. Apples, not necessarily the case here in Middle Tennessee. There's a lot of issues that could happen with apples. But like this last year, apples were fantastic. Like
Break the tree down. Yes, that's the way it tends to go here. It's either too much
or
or
All or nothing.
Yeah.
You really need to be, if you've got a heavy set of fruit on an apple tree, they need desperately to be thinned. And if you use a finger spacing method where it's about that far apart, you can get it out there where you can be. Do that, and although it's difficult to remove 2/3 of the fruit that you leave on there will be far superior to what it would be otherwise. But it just goes with it. You got to do some spraying. And but fertilizing, where it is important in fruit production and for pest prevention, is that plants that are healthy and vibrant and growing are naturally more resistant to pests and pathogens and are a lot able to deal with whatever comes down the pike, so to speak.
That's right.
We did get a live question in about apple trees. So one of our viewers says her daughter has 2 apple trees. They are 5 years old and have never produced fruit. What's the deal?
What's the deal?
What is the deal?
They could have started young, and they just haven't matured enough to really set fruit yet. Apples produce fruit off of what we call spurs, and they're like these little nubbins.
Nubbins?
That's a technical
nubbins.
term.
Little like they're short little stalks that produce these flowers, and they take a number of years to really produce a lot of those spurs. So it could just be young. I don't know how big the plants are. Pruning techniques are highly needed with an apple tree to get the shape and form that you want to produce a quality amount of fruit. But if you're in the mid-state here with us, then you deal with apples just like we do. And like David just said, it's almost like every year is different. And this year we had a major crop of apples for whatever reason. And like last year we had like to nothing. So it's, growing fruit in Middle Tennessee can be frustrating, but it's also, you got to have some patience, and trees definitely need that. And we need to give it a good prune this winter. So if you need some tips on that, maybe you can come out and see me. I can kind of help you out on how to get that structure where we want it to really produce the apples that you want.
And Cheryl, you want to know how many blooms did you see this spring? You know, I mean, if you didn't see any flowers, you're not going to have any fruit.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
keep that
Speaking
up.
of fruit flowers, I want to get one more question in. Tomato plant flowered but never got any fruit. Thoughts? That's weird. That's tricky.
That's kind of really weird because it's been a great tomato year this year, at least for me. I literally picked me and my daughter Marley picked probably 20 pounds of tomatoes last night. Not even joking.
Last night? You still have them?
Yes, they're coming in strong. And red, ripe, beautiful tomatoes with a lot of green ones still behind it. So I'm not sure why that would have happened.
Huh.
I mean, I hate to say it, but
Unless they're just devoid of bees.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's just no pollinators, which, I'm generally, if you've got things in flower, the bees will come.
They'll find it. Yeah.
I don't know what would be preventing that. Now, you can take like a Q-tip and do pollination by hand if you're that short on bees.
Yeah.
But that's not the preferred way. Mother
No.
Nature has a really good method for doing that, and bees provide that service.
And plant some other stuff.
Generally
around the
free of
yard,
charge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
plant some pollinator-friendly stuff around the yard too, and they'll find it.
plant some more
Yeah.
tomatoes.
Yes.
How about, don't just do one. Do a number of them.
Yeah.
It seems to get a lot of pollen kicked up in the air. Is a lot more. You get a lot more fruit that way.
And you get more pollinators that come in that
Yeah.
are attracted in. Hey, let's talk about growing all manner of things and being successful at that. And the way that we really extol people to consider is using Earth Mix garden products. And whether you're growing a vegetable garden or you're growing landscape plants, trees, shrubs, ornamentals, it doesn't really matter. Earth Mix Garden Products has a product for you to help you have success in growing all of the things in your landscape, whether it's on the inside of your home or on the outside. Proganics I is the indoor mix, and Caroline will be quick to tell you that's the one you should use simply because, number one, it has no peat in it. And when you don't have peat in an indoor mix, you don't get fungus gnats. And if you've ever had fungus gnats in the house, they are annoying, to say the least. And when you buy and use Earth Mix Garden products, what you're getting is an extremely fertile, very beneficial mix of soils and amendments to grow your plants. Probably don't even need any fertilizer at all for the first 6 to 8 weeks. It's not sold as a fertilizer, but it's a very naturally fertile soil. So when you use that, you can have confidence that you're going to get the very best results if you're planting trees and shrubs around the yard. Earth Mix Landscape is the preferred choice. Also, there are other outdoor pre-prepared mixes that need no additional work to them. Earth Mix Garden, Earth Mix Proganics O, and of course the complete line of Earth Mix products is all available if you go out to earthmix.net and click on the products tab, and all those will come up. If you're looking to find Earth Mix at a seller near you, simply go to the Find Earth Mix tab on the earthmix.net site, and if you go there, you'll see that there are little pins all around the area, and there's always more suppliers coming throughout the network, and we're always glad to welcome them in. Either zoom in to one of the locations near you or put your address in for turn-by-turn directions to find that location nearest you. Just remember this: success in gardening begins at the ground level when you use Earth Mix Garden products, and we appreciate you giving us a moment to talk about that and take the work out of gardening, because Earth Mix makes it easy.
Yep. Mrs. Bates is watching the show this morning.
Good morning.
She had a comment. She said, I wonder if the apple trees need a pollinator. We don't know what color the apples are, do we?
Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because, we're going to want to put a yellow delicious or golden delicious apple. That is the designated pollinator that an apple tree would use.
It's a good one.
I mean, it's not the only one, but it's kind of the default pollinator for all other apples.
And it's a good point. It's worth mentioning, Renee, is that if you don't have a couple different varieties at least that are that are different cultivars, then an apple will not produce. I mean, it may produce one or two little apples here or there, but you don't get great pollination. So like we were talking about with the tomatoes, planting more of them. Same way with the apple trees. If you have room, apples are best planted roughly about 12 to 15 feet apart from each other. That's kind of how the orchard growers do it. So if you've got space for more apple trees, get some more, know what variety you planted, and then come out here and let us get you pollinators that will be in bloom all at the same time, to where the bees can be all around each one of those trees to throw that pollen in the air, because they do need that to produce fruit.
So real quick, Cheryl did comment and say there were no blooms on that apple tree.
Okay, so it's just telling me that's probably just a young apple tree,
Yeah,
probably
right.
that's just not quite mature enough to start blooming. So
Growing up.
This is the time where we put in our efforts in pruning over the winter time to get that structure how we want it.
Immaturity is a common problem in gardening. Josh.
Oh, Josh.
Josh, yeah.
At least you know.
All right.
First, you got to admit the problem.
Been a lot of fruit.
There's a lot of
questions
fruit
today.
questions.
Man.
Let's stick on this. We have more of an indoor fruiting question
Okay.
about an olive tree. Someone is wondering if they can leave it outside through the winter in a pot here in Zone 7.
Go ahead.
I say do it. I know Austin's on the same page. Obviously, Josh is. I have a very small olive tree that I keep outside. I actually kept it outside all last winter, with the exception of the 1 week in December where we got that
And what did you do
freeze.
that week?
What do you mean? I brought it inside. I
Okay.
brought it inside.
And
I
that's
put
the-
it in front of a window,
So
and that was it.
That's the information that's pertinent, is that being weather aware and being able to move it in when you have really critical weather situations. So by doing just that for those 3 days, whatever that it was, you were able to leave it out the rest of the winter and not have to worry with it. And so that's not, but that does require people to be vigilant and stay and pay attention to what the weather's doing.
Yes.
Unfortunately, this past year, it happened during the Christmas holidays, and people were just distracted completely.
They were distracted.
Now, I don't know that for many things that got killed, it would have made much difference, because it was a freeze
Can't-
that was not like one we'd ever had before.
And you can't bring the lower pedalums in.
It's very difficult
very
unless you want to
difficult.
start digging.
Now,
So-
Caroline's got something back there in her department. Those little pot stands that have the wheels on them.
Yes, we do. We have those. You can wheel them on in.
all
And
different kinds and sizes too.
Staying on the olive tree topic for a moment, though, I do want to talk about that because it's a very trendy house plant right now, or just a plant to have in general. And they're not very happy indoors. With that being said, you can grow them indoors. They're just a little bit finicky, but they're way more happier if you can leave them on your porch outside in full sun. When you bring them inside, they tend to drop their leaves. I know Austin has one as well. I don't know how it's doing, but he left his outside and he brought it in. I think you said it dropped a little bit of leaves.
It dropped within 2 days. It
Yes.
started dropping leaves. This is the same thing that Caroline did. I had an olive tree, and that freeze was coming in December. We were all aware of it, so I brought it inside the house. I'm not even joking, y'all. I had it in the house for 4 days, and I saw more leaf loss within those 4 days than I did the whole rest of the winter. And to answer your question, Caroline, it's doing great.
Well,
Yes.
good.
It's
I'm
just
happy
living its best
doing
life.
And it's one thing that's
Thriving.
important to keep in mind about olives in particular. While you may consider it somewhat of an indoor plant, it's not a tropical, it's a Mediterranean tree.
Correct.
So by doing what Caroline suggested and bringing that in only during the most severe times, and really that would be anything that's likely below 20 degrees in the case of an olive. If you can do that, just keep it well watered. Otherwise, it probably will be okay. But it is a Mediterranean, not a tropical, so it can handle some cold weather.
And I would say, I'm going to ask actually, what do you think? Are your thoughts on this? Say you brought it inside the house, your olive over the wintertime, and say it shed every single leaf.
It's still alive.
Okay.
My mom, good morning, Sherry. She's probably watching.
Hey, Sherry.
Did that same thing. She brought her olive tree in. It defoliated. It dropped all of its leaves. And she was like, I think it's dead. And I said, it's not. Just put it outside once it gets warm or now, and it will refresh in the spring. She bought another olive tree, stuck it next to that olive tree in the same pot, and now she has 2 olive trees in one pot. So yes, great question. If you do have it inside, especially in the winter when the days get shorter, if it does start to drop its leaves, and if it does drop all of them, chances are it's still alive. So just hold it on out.
And
you
when
know.
it is like that, don't keep it too wet when it has no leaves. Like it's not using water at that
Right.
point. It's pretty much gone dormant. So if you keep it too wet, it's not going to like you. I mean, and citrus trees are this way too. You know, if your citrus drops all of its leaves, it's not dead either. It
No.
just, no.
I mean,
it
trees
happens.
like to drop their leaves. They want to go to sleep. They want to rest. So it's a natural process. I mean, plants aren't perfect all the time, like we talked about last week. It's gonna happen. Speaking of plants, though,
What? What?
Cute Tyler.
You mean let's talk about what's in room with Caroline?
that's right. Let's start on this end today.
Caught him napping.
Caught him napping. Tyler must have partied last night. I don't know what was going
Yeah,
on.
partied.
So,
So
Austin
much.
and I have done our mixed planters already. So I brought in a lot of annuals that we have back in the annual greenhouse. We are pretty full up right now. Stuff is flying out the doors, though. It is wild, but it is gorgeous back there. So I've got some rudbeckia. I mean, these are things that I would love to put in a mixed planter. You guys know how I feel about rudbeckia. I love it. You know how Austin feels about it. We don't have to talk about it. In front, we've got Dusty Miller, which is something that I have used in my mixed containers this year, as well as Carmel heuchera, coral bells right here. That is something I talk about all
Absolutely
the time.
gorgeous,
Yes.
by the way. What beautiful color combinations.
Thank you. I did it myself. And then in front, we've got the Solar Flare Matrix Pansy. I used it last year.
Spectacular.
Just gorgeous. Look at the red on the edge,
Yeah.
the yellow.
Wow.
Looks like a
Those
campfire.
are
Looks like a
stunning.
guitar.
I mean,
Looks
that
like a guitar
if that
campfire.
doesn't say autumn, I don't know what does. I mean, that is beautiful.
Yeah, I kind of regret not using them this year, but
They're
I do
huge,
have an
too.
orange themed mixed planter, and I bet I can squeeze some pansies in there. Then we've got Georgia Peach Dahlia. Austin, had you seen those yet?
No. I see them now.
I see them now. Look at the black leaves, the kind of maroon red stem. I don't know if you can really see it on the other side of the camera, but then it's got this peachy bloom. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. Now I might have to make multiple mixed planters. We've got some Swiss chard back here. I'm going to see if I can lift it up because the stems on this. Oh, look at that. When I was choosing what to put in the green room yesterday, this just caught my eye. It was like the first thing I saw, and then I said,
Looks like a
I'm
rhubarb.
going with all annuals.
It really looks like a rhubarb.
You know,
does.
quick little fun
It's
fact.
huge. I tried to make Tyler a salad, but he didn't eat it.
Forbidden salad.
Fun fact, real quick about Swiss chard. It's a beet.
Cool.
It's just beets.
Really?
It's just beets. The exact same botanical name. Beta vulgaris, I believe.
Wow.
If my memory's correct.
Vulgar, huh?
You're so smart. You're not?
No,
Oh.
no.
Well, I didn't say you weren't.
All right, keep going.
Okay, so we've got the mixed containers on this side. And then on the other side of the room, I've got some fountain grass under the TV. We've got two different varieties. And right behind David's head is some zebra maiden grass. So
Yep.
if you look at the leaves, which you can't see right now
Nah,
on camera,
little tough.
but if you come to the nursery, you can take a look. There's variegation on the leaves, which hints the name. So it's a nice look even when it's not blooming. We talk about grasses all the time. I absolutely love them. They're great to add to your landscaping. And then down in front, we've
Down in
got
front.
some cabbage. Josh, if you want to show that off. I know it's hard to find because it's pretty small. Just kidding. It's huge and gorgeous. Another great thing to add to your fall mixed containers that's going to carry through into the winter. And then down in front, we've got some violas that came in. And when these got here, I think everyone at the nursery just about went wild. I know Anne got some. I got some. Jane, shout out to Jane. I believe she got some as well. So those are filling up one of my mixed containers.
So
and
be
those are
careful
called
when you get violas in. It will make people go wild.
Go wild. I mean, it was like a riot here for a minute. It was crazy. And those are called sorbet pink viola. So if you're looking for them and you want that, that's what that one's called. We have quite a few flats right now.
They look purple.
They do look a little purple. There's a little pink in the center.
Okay.
But my gosh, they're so tiny and adorable.
But
and
unlike
I
many
love
other
them.
sorbets, they are indeed sugar free.
They
Yes.
are. They are sugar free, cute and dainty.
But dairy free as well.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
But that's what we have in room today. So
All right.
thank you for going on this little tour with me.
All right.
All right, hydrangea question. I know Austin missed answering quite a few last week. We have just one. They are asking, can I plant an incredible hydrangea in full sun?
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
Yes, let's talk about it. And yes, you can. Now, you need to watch it the first season and probably even the second season, okay? They will sun wilt. I know David talks about this a lot. They have a lot of surface area on their leaf. And yes, they can handle some good full sun. I have mine in a good amount of full sun, but on that first season, I certainly had to water them to keep them perked up. They need to stay more moist in that location. Now, up north, I've heard like in Michigan and stuff, like they can literally live in full sun all day long and not have a problem. But down here, it's a little bit more testy. You got to just kind of watch it, that first season and definitely second season. So can be done. Do I recommend it full sun, blazing hot all day long? No, not necessarily. But if you're willing to water and you really want to grow them and that's what you got, then give it a go. Just keep an eye on them.
Eastern exposure is much better, and what the phenomenon where it looks like wilting, that they are dry, is really the plant exhibiting what is known as the loss of turgor pressure, Terger, and that means that the water pressure within the foliage and stems has reduced, therefore it can't hold the leaves up. So it actually transpires the moisture out of the foliage faster than the stems can bring it up. So
Plant science.
Plant science.
How about, why are my viburnum leaves wilting? Help in all caps. So it's a serious matter.
This is serious, but it's not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I got viburnum at my house, and I'm not sure which one you're growing, but there are some that wilt earlier than others. We see this on the lot as well here at the nursery, and there's like the double file viburnum. Like that's what I grow at the house, and that always, it gets this weird reddish color, and the older leaves tend to want to droop on it, and it's just entering dormancy, okay? Right. It happens every year. Everything around town, not everything, but most everything is really starting that process of dormancy. So shedding some leaves, starting to wilt, starting to see some yellowing. We're starting to see our first hints of fall color out there. I know y'all noticed some of those maples starting to show a little red, and the viburnum does the same thing. So if it's a brand new viburnum that you just planted and it's wilting, then it may be a water issue. It may not be enough. It even
could be somewhat of a water issue, even if it's not newly planted, because we've had really dry conditions up until the last couple of days. So, stress as it goes into fall, and most viburnums, not all, but most are deciduous.
Yeah.
So they're going to drop their leaves. Most varieties. There are a few exceptions to that, but. It's not an unnormal phenomenon.
No, and what's a good thing for you is that viburnum is one of the hardiest shrubs you can plant.
You cannot kill them.
You can't kill them. Once they're in, they're in, y'all. I got mine up underneath a walnut tree. All that juglone.
Really? It's doing great.
Even the juglone doesn't kill them, right?
It's not doing great.
It actually had a little late season flush this year. So all of those leaves I was telling you about that go kind of reddish and wilt, there's a lot of that going on within the interior of my shrub. But then at the ends of it, it had like a little late season flush of green. So it's kind of got this two-tone thing going. But hey, it's alive. Like I said,
really
it's
pretty.
viburnum. It's alive.
Alive.
Speaking of live, their live questions are hot this morning.
All right, people are
Diane on YouTube says, lost 6 Otto Lukens last winter. Best to replace now or next
Where
spring?
were they the last time you saw them?
No.
I can't find them.
Okay.
That's the worst.
Yes, it's a great time to plant right now, y'all. This is like literally perfect planting weather. It's easy on us. It's easy on the plant.
Yep.
We don't have to water near as much. We still have to water. Don't get me wrong.
This weekend
But
would
not
be great
near as
with that moisture in the soil. It'd be a whole lot easier to dig, too.
Much.
And we've got them. We got a nice crop of them right now, too. So if we come out and get some, it's a great time to plant almost anything.
Yeah, Debbie wants to know, she's got a Chicago Hardy fig grown from a seedling in a container outside. Want to plant that outside now or bring it into the unheated garage and plant it in the spring, or leave outside in a container and plant in spring?
Okay, I think at this point in the game, the best thing for you to do is leave it in that pot and just put it in like your shed, like you were talking about, through this winter.
Yep.
That'll make sure that it comes back from the stems next spring, and you'll get a nice crop. And then in the early spring, once we're kind of done with like late frost or whatever, plant it in the ground and let it have that full season to establish its root system. Which figs have a great root system, but they want that spring to kind of get it going.
This past winter, I have a fig at my home that's and it got once again killed back to the ground. It appeared to be dead. Of course, I knew it wasn't, but even though we cut it all the way back, and it's 6 feet across and 6 feet tall now, and it's got fruit all over it. So, figs are. It's a really good idea to do what Austin said, and if you've got it right now, and it's a very juvenile plant, you're probably better off just to leave it until springtime, as he said, and give it a full growing season to establish its roots. That way, if you have a hard winter and it freezes back to the ground, it will come back out. They're very adept at doing that.
They are. Mine
But you
does that
got to
every
be
year.
patient. I've seen people dig them up in early May, and I would go,
No,
there was nothing wrong with that fig. Look closely. There's a little bitty leaf down there.
I lost one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sad.
I had two, but I had three, but I did lose one and replaced it. It's gonna be fine.
I have to say, I've got 3, and they always die back to the ground. But but this year they're way healthier after that freeze, and I've had them in the ground for probably about 7 years, and they're healthier. They're actually bigger, and they have more fruit than they've ever had. So I think they liked that freeze that came through. In a way, maybe it just made them fight harder.
Yep.
But I was a little worried about them, but they seem to be doing just fine.
Nice.
No, last one from live. Donna wants to know: do deer eat ornamental cabbage and kale?
Probably.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Just like a salad.
Got to have your
Just like a
vegetables.
salad.
Yeah.
Got to get some fiber in that diet. So, I mean, it's all good.
Well,
Yes.
the list of plants that are deer resistant is not lengthy. Deer seem to like a whole lot of things, but if you want to figure out what those are in your landscape, come out and see us at Bates Nursery and Garden Center, because what we have is a selection of plants second to none. And in addition to that, we have a staff of horticulturalists who this is their only job. We work with plants all day long, every day. And so if you've got a challenging, unique landscape situation, bring photographs with you on your smartphone or maybe on your tablet, and that gives us some insight into your unique landscape situation and help us to help recommend and help you to get the right plants in the right place the first time. See, we really want to try to take the work out of it.
Yep.
It saves you money when you don't have to be replanting things because you put this thing that you thought would stay nice and short, but it actually gets huge. We don't play that way here. We want to help you get those right things in place, and we do that by having a selection of plants and expertise
Gosh, you're
to
full
get
today,
all
too.
that done. And my grandmother, you see there on the screen, back in 1932 when our business was first established, she was all about growing the best plants and helping people find their way through the garden. So come out and see us at your convenience. So we're open Monday through Saturday from 9 until 4 o'clock, noon to 4 on Sundays. And of course, today is the last day of September. And I wrote newsletter this week, which is right down there, the next link down. And the newsletter this week talked about, the end of this month, which is the September adieu. And you can check that out right here at the bottom of the page. Check that out. And talking about the things that... and I think I somewhat understated, I wrote this on Wednesday, actually.
Really?
And I talked about the chance of having a few showers. We got a few more than a few showers.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I can't write these things in real time. So
You do it in fake time?
the Thursday morning that came along was considerably more rain. We got 1.6 something inches of rain here on Thursday. So... which was beneficial and it's very helpful. So we'll take it because it makes digging holes a whole lot easier. So feel free to check out the article there on the news on the website. If you'd like to sign up and get it to your inbox, love to have you do that as well. Just simply go down to the newsletter tab there, put your name and email address, and check that you actually want it, and click on subscribe. And if you decide you don't want it at some point, you can unsubscribe.
That would be silly.
It's pretty easy. We got all the links and all right there on every page. So we're not going to clutter your inbox. It only comes once a week, and that's it.
And it's a great read.
It is.
So I try to keep it concise. So we don't want to go lengthy on that like I'm doing on this spot here. So I'll call it there. Come see us, Bates Nursery and Garden Center, beautifying Nashville since 1932, a Nashville tradition.
It is.
Oh, hey, everybody.
Hey.
There's
Yeah.
my face. Wow.
Hi.
Hey, Tyler, we have some photos that you,
That's right.
you received. We want to go ahead and throw them up. So we did get a Google Doc request. It wasn't a question saying that this viewer would like to know what we're doing in our beds. Are we weeding? Are we planting stuff? And I would say Austin and I
I'm just
are doing our
sleeping in
mixed
mine. That's
containers
all
right
I'm
now.
doing.
Their
Oh,
business.
So my gardening project was mixed containers this week. Austin did his earlier this week, so this is Austin's.
Look at that.
It's so cute.
I was in the fall spirit, people. I went out to the garden and picked some little watermelons that I knew weren't going to finish just because it's late in the season and they were small. So I was the reason that I did that is because I was one pansy short of that pot.
man.
So it was just a spot right in the middle, right in the front. That was just bugging me. I mean, it was awful. I was
Well,
going
that
to have to
worked
come
out well.
back
It worked
and
out
buy a new
well.
pansy, so I didn't. I went to the garden, got me some watermelons, threw them in that pot, and it's so cute.
It's so cute. It's adorable.
Yep.
Look at that. Is your other one like that? Do you have watermelon in your other pot?
No, because the other one I filled up with pansies
Has
first.
enough pansies.
But I do have a couple of little things in my other pot because I've got another pot on the other side that matches that.
Is that
It's
a
a gorgeous container.
is that a
too, by the way.
hallow gnome? Is that what that is? Or
I don't know where we got that. I just found it.
It's cute.
Actually, my wife found it, and it was just somewhere, so I grabbed it.
It's got a leafy beard.
Yeah, very fall-like.
All right, let's go
good
to
work.
go to Caroline's. Look at that.
Oh, look at that. So I've got heuchera that I talk about all the time. I'm wondering, so my mixed containers are on my back porch this year that gets more sun because we're redoing the front of our house. So the heuchera might fry, but I'm going to give it a chance, keep it watered. And I went with this Euphorbia Ascot rainbow in the back that I've always wanted to plant. So we'll see how that holds up through the winter. But this
Should
is
see some
my
color on that.
my
yeah.
sunset theme that I think I could fit some of those solar flare pansies
I was about to say,
into.
you got some room for
Yep.
some pansies. in
you
there.
got a spot right there.
Right there in
Yep.
front.
I'm going to
that'll-
take 3 home, I
That'll
think.
really
you
set
go.
that
Okay.
off.
And you know
Yes.
what? I don't think your heuchera's going to fry in the winter sun. I think winter sun is so much different than summer sun. I
Yeah.
think they're going to be good.
I hope so, because like I do every year, I put them in my fall containers and then put them in the ground in the spring. So I think it'll be fine. I also did one cool colored pot that I have my Dusty Miller in, my violas that I you have
there
it.
is.
Hi.
So that one's a little bit smaller, but there is cabbage in the back that'll get bigger over time, and then some blue sedum in the front. So we got a hot and a cold theme this year, 2 very different mixed planters, but
I love
I'm
that
excited
pansy.
to see how they come up.
I love that pansy.
Oh, that pansy,
Oh.
it's called lilac shades, I believe, or purple shades. It's gorgeous. I mean, you can't really tell in this picture, plus they're all facing the wrong way.
You've got some
took this
serious
picture?
lighting issues on that
I
shot
took
there.
that. I know. That one's not great. I'll get another picture, especially once
You
it
were
fills
walking
out.
out the door. I got to take a picture.
I got to get this real fast. But the purple and blues and silvers for that one, I am so excited about. And I had been looking forward to my mixed containers for weeks. And then I said, today's the day I'm going to do it. But that's been
Gorgeous.
my gardening project for the week. I mean, next week I'll probably start fall planting stuff in the ground. I have a lot of grasses. I bought a Japanese maple from Isley that came in. Been waiting for it to cool off a little bit. But I would say next week's going to be great to put it in the ground.
What are you doing in your garden?
What am I doing in my garden?
Yes.
I'm passing through it on the way to the front door.
I understand. Okay.
Yeah, I've had this parking lot project going on for about 3 months now, and I'm almost over it.
I'm waiting for seeds to germinate. I mean, that-
gosh, I am.
I'm on week 2, and I haven't got any radishes. I haven't got any parsley. I haven't got any beets to come
Really?
up. Yeah.
Those usually come up pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
You got some rain this week, so
Yes.
I would bet your beets will be coming along.
Bet your beats. I like that. We need a shirt that
Oh,
says
by the
that.
way, this
okay.
past week was the Dinner by the Bridge that Greenways for Nashville, and we're proud to be a sponsor of that. Got to see so many wonderful folks while we were there having dinner and socializing, and I don't know how many people came up to me and told me specifically how much they enjoy our Instagram feed, specifically featuring Caroline and Austin
Yes.
on all the little
Aw.
features they do. So congratulations to both of you. A lot of folks really appreciate the work you put forth. And of course, the other thing that they don't know is that Tyler's on the other side of the
That's
camera.
right.
Yeah.
So Tyler,
He doesn't get any credit,
Tyler is a
Occasionally-
he's an integral part of that. So thank you, Tyler, Austin.
Occasionally, I
Caroline.
get my mug in there.
You did.
You do.
When I get frustrated and I'm like, no, guys, I'm going to answer this. This is silly.
And then he
Yeah.
takes one of our mics and he does it.
Oh, we got a problem on somebody on Facebook, guys.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Beth says, I have a baptisia.
Yes.
She
Good job.
bought it back this spring in a pot. It's turning black.
Hey.
Ooh.
The pot had lots of yellow
Black
mushrooms.
Uh-huh.
A couple of months ago. This is likely because of too much moisture. Not enough drainage. What?
It probably too much moisture because I'm dealing with some of the same. Okay,
Okay.
I've got Baptisia planted below a tree form hydrangea. Actually, beautiful this spring. Had beautiful foliage all through the summer, really. But here, as of late, I've noticed mine the same way, and a lot of the leaves are starting to turn black. Typically from the bottom, working up a little bit. Yes, probably a fungus. Is it one that's going to kill Baptisia? Likely, no. Nothing really kills Baptisia all that much. Like,
No.
Hardly any pest pressure, hardly any fungal pressure, like during the growing season and when it's actively blooming and all that. So, if it is staying too wet, obviously don't water it anymore. But it's getting ready to go through dormancy, like I talked about earlier. So you're not alone. Mine's doing kind of the same thing. So stick it out. It'll be dormant soon. It'll come back bigger and better next
Yeah,
year.
Beth, and she also went further to ask about the potting soil, a raised bed soil, or a mixture or not. She's not certain what it is that she's got in there. Come get some earth mix, and then you'll know it's the good stuff. Okay, I mean, seriously, find some somewhere.
Yep.
Find
Yep.
some. Speaking of soils, somebody asked, they are repotting a cane plant soil recommendation. So cane plant, that's going to be Dracaena mascane.
Sure
So
it is.
Some people call it corn plant or cane plant. It's
Oh.
those huge, round, why can't I think of the words?
Stalk.
Plant, stalk, there it is, that has a
Dracaena
lot of
massagiana.
a lot of foliage up top. So those like to sit dry. I recommend you can use a cactus and succulent mix. That's a good option. I make my own. I use the Proganics Indoor, and I will mix it with pine fines or shredded pine bark and a little bit more perlite, even though it has it in there already, to help with drainage and help that soil stay nice and dry. And they also like to be root bound. So when you go to repot it, you're going to want to go up like an inch or two in diameter, no more than that. Some people think that, if I go into a big pot, the plant's going to grow faster. Absolutely not. The plant's going to grow slower if it grows at all, and then it might die. But just a dry soil mix, and then make sure you're letting it dry out in between waterings. But that is a great, low maintenance, very versatile when it comes to lighting plants.
And here's a fun fact about Dracaena massagiana or corn plant.
Massagiano.
Is that if you've ever seen the movie Coal Miner's Daughter, Sissy Spacek played Loretta Lynn in that.
Yeah, she was born that way.
The garden scene where she's out in the garden, there are corn plants growing. Those actually were Dracaena massagianas that came from Bates Nursery back in the day.
No way.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you'll
Was
go
it down in the credits? Was it way down in the credits?
no, I don't think it was in the credits, but
Okay.
I did actually handle those plants and deliver those to where, and of course, they ultimately planted them and used the greens people, whoever worked on the set. But those actually came from here back in the day.
No
that
kidding.
was 19 something.
19 something. Well, I know we've done what's in room,
What does that mean?
but
What's in bloom with Austin?
Hi.
you're back.
Things
It
are
is.
blooming, but not much. Sorry to say that, but we're getting into that time where not much is going, but I'll say a few. Crepe myrtle's blooming and also going dormant at the same time. It's kind of cool. It's like they're still throwing some blooms, but they're also shedding leaves, so there'll be sticks before we know it. Caroline's Jane Magnolia, she wrote on my list today, is in bloom, which is weird, but it does do that. It'll throw some fall blooms.
Mine always blooms in the fall.
I know, it's crazy. So they'll spit a few out. They're still going. Hey, my Chinese viburnum, that thing's blooming right now.
Really?
Uh-huh. That's a cool one. Viburnum macrocephalum. It's a good viburnum, champion grower, but it blooms in the spring heavily, and then will rebloom in the fall as well. So it's going right now. All of our grass is still going in full
Yeah,
bloom.
buddy.
Really looking good. Been a great grass year. I talked about this. Plenty of rainfall this summer and good amount of heat. Grasses really loved it. All of our natives that I've been talking about still going. Goldenrod, ironweed. Joe Pie still going, so those are always great to grow. Hey, you know what? My Jack Manii clematis, the best clematis on the market, has reflushed leaves and is reflushing a second bloom set. I say second. It almost like never stops blooming. At least has a few. So if you ain't growing that one, you better. Okay, next, let's see. Mums.
Mums?
Mums are the word. Mums are the word. The best perennial mum on the market is the Sheffield Pink Mum. Shout out to Ann in the office who is all about this plant, which I am too. But if you're going to grow it, get ready. That thing explodes. An explosion of foliage and blooms. It makes a massive little plant. Awesome plant to grow. We sell it here. Those are blooming right now.
It's like a shrub. I just want to hop in. Anne convinced me to buy it. I planted it last fall. Just one little 1 gallon plant. The plant itself
Yes.
wasn't even that big. I mean, it is a full on shrub that's like 3 feet across and probably at least 2 feet high.
Yeah, I'm telling
and
you.
mine has buds and it's about to open. Yeah. So thank you, Anne, for that recommendation. I absolutely love it.
It is a shrub. It is. Be careful when you plant it. Make sure you got room for it, but it's an excellent plant. And then lastly, but not leastly, pansies. Pansies. We had a question actually on our Instagram feed the other day when we answered the question, and it said, hey, what other flowers can I plant in the winter in Middle Tennessee besides pansies? And we kind of just shut it down. We're like, there isn't any other flowers that bloom in the winter other than pansies, okay? But why would you not want to plant pansies?
Yes.
Look how beautiful they are. There's every single color in the world on pansies, like in 2-tone, 3-tone,
3-tone.
solid tones, beautiful big blooms, really small, dainty, but a million of them blooms. Like pansies are the thing we plant over the winter. So if you're not growing pansies, grow your pansies,
Better
and it's
do.
Now,
time.
there is something you mentioned a few weeks ago, Austin, that I think is worth repeating, is that the repeat blooming garden hydrangeas,
Oh, yeah.
they actually are not repeat blooming because they didn't bloom in the spring at all. They got frozen back too hard. We're seeing fall flowers on those. My brother Mark actually sent me some photographs, and Mark, I'm sorry, I forgot to send them to Tyler. So they're not going up on the screen, but he's getting a lot of growth out of his, and they were initially coming out pink, and he did apply some aluminum sulfate or magnesium sulfate, I guess it was, to lower the pH and turn them blue.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's a great point. It's if you're lucky enough to where you planted the Endless Summer collection of hydrangeas,
Yep.
that's hence the name Endless Summer. They typically bloom in the summer. They did not this year, like David said, but then their sucker sprouts that come from the ground will produce late blooms, and that's what you're seeing right
So
now.
now they're
Yay.
perpetual fall hydrangeas.
My hibiscus didn't bloom all summer.
What?
Going crazy right now. I mean, absolutely covered
It's
with bloom.
blooming right now, you
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely
Okay.
going nuts.
Nice.
Unbelievable.
What color is it?
Kind of a peachy orange.
Okay.
About the same color as that dahlia up there.
Peachy
on-
orange.
Nice.
Oh, you're talking about a
A tropical.
Yeah, it's a tropical.
That's the
Okay,
one
yeah.
you put in your basement every year.
Yes, it
Bring
goes
out.
lives in the
Yeah.
hole. Yes, it
Yeah,
goes.
I've noticed they will spend a lot of energy throwing leaves, it seems like, during the growing season. And then once weather changes and night temps drop and probably sunlight gets less during the day,
Yep.
then they'll start throwing those blooms. So
Very
good
cool.
work, Josh.
Joy has got a dwarf variety of deodar cedar that what is there a dwarf variety?
Yeah,
of
Feeling
deodar?
Blue is
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
Feeling blue.
Matter of fact, the quick story about Feeling Blue, deodar cedar, is my dear departed friend Cliff Comstock with Monrovia discovered that sport.
Wow.
It's probably been 40 years ago, but he was a great guy, and I often have hated. I mean, Feeling Blue is a really cool name. I guess it's Feeling Blue because Cliff's no longer with us.
Yep.
What a great guy he was.
Yep, and then so that's a good recommendation. Any recommendations for planting and watering? She bought a gold one, but I'm scared it's going to get too big for where I want to plant it. A 20 by 20 space.
Oh, I think that's probably still fine. I mean,
Yeah.
by the time that thing's overgrowing that space, we're talking a long time from now. I
That's
think
next
that's
century, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a long time from now. I think that's a cool spot for it. And let it be. Let that thing grow. I mean, it'll get 20 foot here. It might get 30 foot here, but that's okay.
Over time. It'll be
You know,
gorgeous.
if,
too.
if
Take
you're
a
getting
long time.
if you're getting a couple of decades out of something,
That's pretty good.
I kind of think you've gotten your money.
Yeah,
worth out of
that's
it.
pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, so let's wrap up on a question that has to do with two of Austin's favorite plants, hydrangea and switchgrass.
Yes.
Shenandoah switchgrass is covering my limelights. Will the limelights eventually get bigger?
Yes, most definitely. Limelight gets huge. Absolutely
Giant.
huge.
Mine got like 10 foot.
Yeah, so stick it out with that one. The grasses are going to come back from the ground each year, so you'll see that limelight probably explode next spring
Yep.
and get much bigger, and it'll look great. I love those plants together.
Oh, yeah, they're gorgeous. What else do you like with it? Boxwood.
Ah.
And maybe some petunias,
Got
perhaps.
to.
Some pansies.
Oh, and some pansies.
Yes.
I love pansies.
All right. How late is too late to plant bushes?
3:30.
3:30.
Yeah. It's going to be getting dark.
It's already starting to get
Yeah, I
dark.
know.
It is already dark
Yeah,
at like
we're-
7:30.
We're losing 2 minutes and 16 seconds a day right
I've
now,
noticed.
daily.
That's a lot of
So,
time
Yeah.
per day.
But hey, it's never too late to plant some shrubs, y'all.
No, it's not.
It's really not.
Put your headlamp on
Yep.
and get out there.
But in all seriousness, I plant a lot of my shrubs when they're dormant. So absolutely not too late to plant it. They'll actually be happier as we move into winter.
Yeah, and the great thing about where we live is we live in the heart of the transition zone, so there's really no time time of year that you can't plant most things. So if you're in the mood, it's a good time to dig in the dirt.
Yes, it is. And tallest male holly for our area, which is Zone 7. We are in Middle Tennessee.
Tallest one?
Tallest.
Male?
What is the tallest male holly?
There's male and female on separate plants, but probably what do you think, David? Tallest like Fosters? I mean, get you a male Foster holly. That's one of the tallest.
There also are male Native American hollies. I mean, those can get to be 40 feet tall,
Wow.
but they
Whoa.
grow slow.
Yeah.
I mean,
40 feet tall?
Yeah, but
Wait,
you're talking about a tree that's maybe 80 years old. I mean, they can get to be very, very old.
Oh, I
but
passed close to a 40-footer on my way home. Just a straight up American holly.
Yep.
It's a big, big tree. It's been there forever.
If you want to see a really great collection of specimens of very mature holly trees, go to the Bernheim Forest in Kentucky. There's also great stands of other American trees that have just been there forever. It's really great.
Thanks, Tyler.
Very cool.
You're welcome.
And
And I'll
Very,
see
very
myself out with music.
Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in today.
Come out here to the Bates Nursery. Folks, this place is full of stuff. My gosh, it's got...
We're actually
every
gonna have really spacious, dust-free parking.
Yes.
but it'll be a couple of weeks yet.
Yeah, but it's looking
getting
good out
we're
there, by the
getting
way.
close.
It's looking
Dr.
very-
Lincoln's coming to see me today.
Is he?
Yeah,
right.
looking forward to that. So,
Love him.
the good doctor.
So he'll be out and about and walking the lot, I'm sure. But folks, you need to do the same
Spreading
thing.
his wisdom. That's
Yes.
only Dr. Lincoln can do it.
All righty, folks. Next Saturday, we're going to come back. Most of us will be in studio
Yeah,
next Saturday.
you might be out of pocket.
I might be in a pocket. I'm going to have to reach in that pocket, it sounds like. So it's okay. But
Yep.
the rest of the crew will be here for you. And they're going to have the at-home show live here from the Green Room Studios at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. See you then.